Any pithy last words? No? Just stern head shaking.
Josh, Star, and Ben. 3 founders, Three's Company, Cerberus, Blind Mice, Hockey Periods, Triangles, Third Eye Blind, Podium Finishes, Tricycle. FounderQuest, Illuminati.
So I had the first session of a conference that's happening online next week. It's the Business of Software conference. And that's happening like Monday through Wednesday. But on Wednesday of this week, they had like the replacement for the meet and greet, the night before kind of thing, where you just go and socialize and meet other people that are at the conference. And it was, of course, it's all online this time. It's not in Boston where it has been in past years. And so the meet and greet was done on Zoom. And I was kind of skeptical, like this was going to work out very well because, big Zoom meetings, they're just not good. No one ever talks because everyone's afraid to talk over somebody else, But actually it turned out really, really well. Like they did breakout rooms. So they had at first everyone together, it was like 50 people or whatever. And then they did breakout rooms of 5 people. So you could actually just meet a couple of people at a time. And that was just great. And did a couple rounds of that. So it's like, it really was like the best ever type of meeting for a conference like that. It's much better than like yelling at people.
Yeah. Well, you and I have always talked about the mixer events that they throw where the night progressively gets louder and you eventually lose your voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Half the work for me in those events is like creating my own breakout group anyway, right? Because it's like the only way you actually get to talk to people is if you kind of like wrangle 5 or 6 people and get them away from the DJ and just, have a conversation with them.
So this does the work for you.
Yep.
How did they organize the breakout rooms? Like, was it in Slack or something, or do they have a list of them that you joined, or?
No, like Zoom apparently has this feature called Zoom Rooms, and you can just like randomly assign segments of people into rooms. And so you just switch,
so you hit a button
from the main group to Yep.
Oh,
so in fact, you don't even I didn't have to push a button. Like whoever was running the show pushed a button, and all of a sudden now I'm in a smaller room.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Did they have moderation like inside the breakout rooms, or was it just sort of a free for all in that small group?
So Mark, who was running the show, he gave us some instructions before splitting off into the rooms. He wanted each of us to introduce ourselves and come up with a question. And then basically like once we got into the rooms, it was like, okay, go figure it out. Like, here it says, and the first round was kind of, didn't work all that smoothly because no one knows what's going on. Right. But then we came back from that. We chatted a little bit about how it went. And so we came up with some new parameters like, okay, you should probably take just 2 minutes rather than, the whole time, because it was only like a, 5-minute kind of window. So the second round went a little bit better, smoother. And, but yeah, so there wasn't like moderation. There was just like, hey, here's what you should go do that. And then they corrected a little bit after there was some confusion, but
that's cool.
I think it worked out really well.
Were you already, planning to go to Business of Software before pandemic?
Yeah.
And they switched it, or? Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't signed up for any online conferences since the pandemic started because I just thought that they wouldn't be all that great. But yeah, this one I had signed up for before. I even had the tickets purchased. And so that's a thing where now I have a credit rather than a refund. And that kind of gets me, but you know how that goes.
Was it they didn't refund any of the purchase price? I assume they just switched it to online, or?
Yep, okay. That's right.
Yeah. That's a pricey virtual event.
It is a pricey virtual event.
knowing what if it's like past.
Yeah. It's the same as past years. So it is kind of a pricey conference. It's in the upper end of the ones that we typically attend, but it's a great conference to attend. If you're an entrepreneur, if you are involved with software in any shape or form, like as a product manager or as an engineering manager, it's a great conference to go to really take a break from your business and hear from some great thought leaders and get some good ideas. Each time I've done this twice before, I think. And each time I've come back with ideas for how to make Honey Badger better. And I think it's been really good, really worth the investment.
The other attendees are like us, I would assume, too. Like, do most of them have established businesses, or are there a lot of people that are kind of in the starting phase?
No, I'd say more of the people there are more established. So you're talking about businesses that are much larger than ours and that have been around for tens of years.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of people who are in startups. So, but the business of software forums have been around forever, right? And these are that same kind of crowd. So you get a lot of people who are working at Fortune 500 companies and so.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out one of these years.
I've noticed it for virtual events. Like I do a weekly group on Zoom, and it usually draws a pretty good crowd, like about 40 or 50 people. And comparing it to sort of other less formal groups I've been a part of, it seems like structure is really the key to an enjoyable sort of group experience in Zoom. And like basically letting people know what is expected of them. Like Ben mentioned, when they went into breakout rooms, the moderator was like, okay, here's what you're supposed to do. Go figure it out. And so it's like everybody has a task to work on, or everybody kind of knows what they're supposed to be doing. The places where I kind of struggle on Zoom meetings is when it's people that I'm not really super familiar with, and there's no structure, and you're just supposed to kind of like talk. That's when I just tended to go into crickets mode.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that like gets like makes it hard for me to even like show up in the. My problem is I need to like, or the risk to me in an online or in a virtual event is like that I won't open the Zoom in the first place, because it's there's not much resistance there. You could just not.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Well, there's some commitment that has to happen. Like if you actually go to a conference and you're like debating going to the networking event or whatever, but then you force yourself, and once you're there, you can't leave. Like you're there and you have to figure it out.
So one of the downsides to this conference, though, is that since it's normally held in Boston, and since the people who are running it are actually based in the UK, they're still keeping the Boston schedule. So it's starting at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time. So even though I get up early and I'll already be awake for that, still I'm not usually like up for Zoom calls at that time in the morning. So that's a little rough.
That is early. Yeah. That is early for a Zoom call.
If you don't mind me derailing a bit from the conference thing, sorry you said about having these kind of loose conversations, and that can be kind of a problem on Zoom calls. I've had that same experience, but it made me think of something that I saw twice this week from two different people regarding Zoom. Well, tangentially regarding Zoom. And that was the idea that if you were doing interviews for a job, which we've done via Zoom recently, because that's what you do. Actually, we've always done that because we're a remote company, right? But
so if you're the interviewer,
right? But the two comments both said you should interview people in the same context in which you'll be working with them. So don't interview them on Zoom if you don't use Zoom on a regular basis in your business. If you're in Slack all the time, then interview them in Slack.
That's cool.
That's interesting. So I wanted to see what you two thought about that.
I could see having them join, some Slack channel for a period of time and have some sort of, format for interacting. Does it mean like, would you like keep the same interview format, but just have it over chat? Or would you like, is that what they were saying? Or would it be would you actually would you invite them to your Slack for a week and be like, all right.
I think it was closer to the latter. I mean, as opposed to just doing the interview questions in a Slack channel. I think the notion is like bring them into your workspace for a while and work with them as a colleague and get a really good feel for how they would be as an employee.
Because like what comes to mind for me is like, because we did we've had pretty good success with the take home projects. Like we've liked doing that with people, which is great because that's kind of it that does imitate how we work as individuals on projects. So we give them a project and they go away and work on it for a while. And if they have questions, they, interact with us like we would with each other. But I could see that fitting pretty well. That could be like the pretense for the Slack invite. Like, right. So we, forget maybe do like an initial saying hello, like a short thing, but we could focus on like, okay, we're going to give you this project. Come hang out in our Slack for the week. We're going to interact, try to hang out and interact and talk about the project and share what you're working on and stuff. And that could be like the foundation for like the interview in air quotes.
Yeah. And since we pay people for their time when they're working on that project, it's basically like you're paying to have that person show up as a contractor for a while with your business. So
unless you're Basecamp, they don't pay.
One thing that might be difficult for people regarding that is like if they have a job, it's going to be difficult to show up in another Slack during work hours doing work.
That does.
But in our case, we're pretty asynchronous, right? So just because we say show up in Slack doesn't mean we expect them to be there during work hours. Like that's just what we use for interaction. So,
that's true.
Oftentimes we'll just drop something in Slack and just wait for someone whenever they show up, up. Right? So
I guess you could also do it over Basecamp, like have some sort of Basecamp format for, like maybe have them write some longer form things on the project and about who they are. We could give them we could just send them the set of questions over Basecamp and this, but I mean, at that point, you're basically just back to interviewing people over email with a fancy UI.
I just thought the concept was interesting. Yeah. Not even having that in-person Zoom call if you're not really a Zoom company, because we aren't really. I mean, we hang out every now and then, but I hadn't ever thought of the idea of not having a face-to-face chat with someone as part of the interview process.
Yeah, I still think that I'd want the face-to-face in there somehow, because I mean, for one, we're on Zoom right now, and we do weekly
I've had Zoom calls every week or every day this week.
So we talk we're talking we never use Zoom, but we do. But then again, all the things that people talk about, the benefit of I mean, one of the reasons we've tried to do more face to face is just that it's nice. It is nice to be able to have visual cues and even just for the social aspect of it. So I mean, I'd want some form of probably face to face as a part of the interview process, but it doesn't have I think there's definitely room to not have it be a series of Zoom calls. Yeah.
There's thinking about this idea. There's been something that's it's bothered me, but I've been trying to put my finger on what it was exactly. And I think I think my problem with this idea is that it kind of is going down that route of making an employee sort of a cog in the machine, right? It's well, if you want to see how well the cog is going to work in the machine, just put it in the machine and see how it works. But the thing is, at least personally, while I understand that an employee-employer relationship is a financial relationship and, it's not your family or your best friends or whatever necessarily. While that's true, I don't want to necessarily have employees be just defined entirely by their output, by their work output. I want to have at least some kind of a human connection with people. So it would seem weird to me to sort of skip the human part. Even if the human part is just kind of not even necessarily used to make the hiring decision, but just sort of, I don't know, to sort of connect with people. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of people who write for us on the blog have been oh, you want to do a Zoom call? That's weird. Because most people who do blogs and hire external content, they don't actually get to know the authors really. It's all just very transactional. Mm-hmm. And that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because it's just, I mean, I don't know, maybe it produces the results that you want, but it just seems kind of sterile to me and not really the place I want to work.
Yeah, it's good point.
Star, you are definitely the humanity side of our business.
Oh yeah, I'm the humanitarian. It's okay.
Well, maybe, it could be a generational thing here though, because, the younger generations, their communication is memes. So if, bringing the chat into the picture could actually be a better way to express ourselves in face-to-face communication in the future. Oh yeah. Because we could
I sound like a boomer? We got to do a phone call. Let's just hop on a quick call.
Boomer.
So Josh, I thought you were about to say, so we should have our applicants submit their submissions as TikTok videos.
Right. We only interview over TikTok. And we won't even see your video unless it's good enough and it shows up in our feed.
We just look at the TikTok homepage every day, and if there's a video there addressing us, we will respond to it.
Yeah.
That would be that might be a good approach for a marketing person, maybe. I don't know, a content creation.
Yeah,
person.
That would be a gauntlet for sure. That's like making someone sell you for the sales interview or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Well, not that we're hiring anytime soon, but I just thought that's interesting.
We could be hiring sometime soon. I don't know.
We could. Actually,
know.
I was looking at the budget this morning. I was like, oh, we actually do have budget for somebody.
We've got our conclave coming up, our quarterly meeting. So we can talk about that then.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure the sky's not going to start falling soon.
Yeah, I'm not like
I might
jumping
have
to
to wait
hire
a few
right now.
months before we make any big decisions on that.
Well, speaking of the sky falling, my stock portfolio is very heavily weighted on the tech side, so I've been feeling pain.
That's why. Has tech been going down lately? I forget.
Yeah,
I haven't checked.
Really got pummeled over the past week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear, Star, like what was like propping the market up? Because that came out, and it was what?
I haven't heard.
It was SoftBank, right, Ben? SoftBank was like, was it like risky trading? Like basically just like dumping money into the market.
Yeah, just buying like crazy.
Yeah, buying like crazy. No one knew. No one knew it was them. Like people knew this was happening, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So
didn't that happen to Bitcoin? Isn't that what happened to Bitcoin?
Probably.
Yes, that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm sure this is not the last time or that it's even stopped. So,
right.
But it's, I mean, kind of like we've talked about this, and I mean, this is kind of, I think what we said was happening. It's just, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Who the culprit was this time.
And we talked, I think, a couple of months ago about how we totally expected this to happen. So, corrections happen. You just have to ride the wave and keep on doing your dollar cost averaging and try not to refresh your portfolio page, every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm looking at the price of like the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, and it's still what it was in February.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's still like it hasn't tanked.
Yeah. But if you look at NASDAQ, which is very tech heavy.
Okay.
You can see it's been not kind past week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. But still, I mean, like it's the same as what it was. Like it's higher than it was in February.
Well, yeah, but it's not. But like this, it was a dramatic reversal. Like it was going up and up, unexplainably until the SoftBank thing came out, and then it's like pop.
It went slightly down.
Yeah, like you should at least have corrections during a worldwide economic crisis, I would imagine.
Corrections are healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all this is really that's really opened my eyes about the stock market in a lot of ways. Like I've read a lot of books like the what's the name? The Intelligent Investor, like the Benjamin Graham guy. Yeah. Like the Warren Buffett, like, okay, it's like stocks are tied to like economic value of a company. And so like the stocks of a country should be tied to the economic health overall of the country. And that's just not true. Like this is a lie, right? And like thinking about it, it kind of makes sense because like all the people who are, not all the people, but most of the people who are more or less in the same boat that we are, right? Sort of like professionals who invest in stocks and do stuff like that. Like on the whole, like that group isn't doing too bad. So, I guess it's when that group starts doing bad, then people are going to start selling stocks.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas right now it's mostly like, it's mostly sort of like lower people in lower income brackets that are doing bad. And so,
well, a lot of people like us apparently are speculating in stocks right now. That's part of the reason for the volatility right now is that like
that makes sense.
A lot more people are doing risky trading. So
because they're bored at home, is that?
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. Exactly. And then at the same time, it's become so much easier to do. And then like fractional trading, it's becoming a thing now. So like people can get into it with less dollar figures anyway.
As I say, and you combine that with 0% interest rates, you can't make money anyplace else.
Yeah. Right? And also I imagine there's lots of people who are, who have been doing okay financially, who is like if the market goes down, like they're just going to buy. So that's going to keep the market from going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. Overall, like I don't
pandemic.
Yeah.
I did, by the way, recently shift some of my money out of stocks, actually very recently. So yeah, I mean, like I'm not going to stop investing in stocks or in the market, but it's going to be volatile for a while, and it doesn't hurt to boost other forms of savings or,
that's true.
Reserves.
Buy that gold. Buy gold now.
Buy gold. Oh yeah, sure. Don't buy gold. Yeah, when the pandemic started, I basically took out most of the money from the stock market that wasn't in like a retirement account. Yeah, so I'm still glad I did that. Like, it's nice having a little bit of extra cash in the bank for, just for security and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely recommend the total market index for your 401k or your IRA for sure.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, we've talked about this, but that's the only thing I'll invest in. Period. Like, I don't buy individual stocks. So, but yeah, like I've even shifted money out of that. So not totally though. So yeah, it's just, I don't think you even with like, if you're buying the entire market, like still that is a basket. You're still, if all your money is in the stock market, it's still all in the stock market. So
right. Right. So speaking of money, Josh, you're paying for a note-taking app. And so I want to know why. Like,
yeah,
because like there are a gazillion note-taking apps, and
well, the simple answer is it's not a note-taking app.
Wait, what's the note-taking app?
Yeah, it's
What
Roam.
are you talking about? Roam?
Yeah, Roam Research. So like, roamresearch.com.
Every time you bring this up, I hear that song, like that Bengals song, I think, like Roam if you want to. You know that one?
Well, they probably embrace that. Yeah, there's all kinds of Roam puns. Most of them are like, ROME. It's ROAM is the spelling. So it's, but yeah, they use it as like, ancient Rome or, all that stuff.
I wanted to ask you about this because I just listened to the Art of Product podcast where Ben was talking about using Roam.
Yeah, I saw that title. I haven't listened to it yet. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, you have to say it's good because they might be listening.
They might be listening. So yeah, it was awesome. But no, it was good. And so, but Ben was talking about using Roam and why he finds it interesting. He kept coming back to this graph thing and talked about this graph of nodes.
The networked thought type thing.
Yeah. And as he was describing it, maybe I just wasn't getting it because I haven't used Roam and I haven't really looked at it. But when he was describing it, I kept thinking, yeah, it sounds a lot like a wiki. Like,
yeah, it is.
So tell me why I should pay for Roam as opposed to just using a wiki.
Well, I've never used a wiki, or I've never like made an attempt at using a wiki for my notes. Some of the features of Roam, Roam, the basic features are very much like a wiki. I would say the main difference, and I could be wrong on this, and that like the usability of wikis is just amazing, and that you can just like write fluidly in them with like zero effort, which is basically what Roam is like. But my assumption is that like wiki software is a little bit janky. Like what do I do to set up a wiki? Like, what would you use for like if you were gonna set up a wiki?
Back in the olden days, there was this app called TiddlyWiki.
Yeah, that's still around.
Is it?
Yeah. So, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking of. So, like, I have to go, what am I going to go do? Like, I have to go, like, spin up TiddlyWiki, and that's self-hosted, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to have to host my own wiki. I'm going to have to, like, manage the software. So, that alone, I'll pay for, I'll pay someone to do that for me. But at the same time, like, I haven't used TiddlyWiki, but, like, from the screenshots and what I've seen of it, it's like a little bit like Wikipedia or like, like older software, right? So
you get a text area, you enter some text, and that's basically it.
Okay. So like Roam is so much more than that. It's like I would say like I didn't get it either before I was introduced to it. I was introduced to it by my friend Joel Hooks, like he's been using it for like, he was a very early adopter. I got into it like around the start of this year, and I didn't get it at first either. Like I was kind of like not sure exactly how to use it, but the more and more I got into it and the more that it clicked, the more I realized I'd say like the closest thing I can compare it to is probably the shift that happened with embracing Notion, which was a big shift for us, because same thing with Notion. Like I was like, why would I pay, Notion is like more expensive than Roam even. I'm like, why am I going to pay like this for this like expensive app just to host my, my docs or something that I have in a Git repo right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of the same kind of like mental shift that happened with that. Like where in Notion, like, like you can create databases on the fly and attributes and all the things we love about it. In Roam, I'd say it's a little bit more focused. It is a little bit more focused on your personal thought process. But it's like a wiki, but it's a very fluid way of like building your own personal like networked wiki where you can write. It's, you can just basically like start typing in it and write and link up you like the nodes in it. It uses wiki style syntax to link up nodes within within your graph. It's a graph database basically, but you don't really think about it too much as you're doing it. So it becomes a very like fluid way to write, and actually like I found that it aids my thinking. Like as I'm like taking notes in it, it like helps me actually like kind of outline my thought process and then connect ideas and that sort of thing. So I mean, I don't know, like it's been a huge learning process of like how to actually take advantage of everything that it does. And everything I've described is like the very base feature set too. Like it has a lot of weird, interesting capabilities that I haven't even gotten into.
I guess I'll check it out.
So
I've been reading your notes that you posted on your hosted site there. And, and I've been seeing it popping up more and more. And I see all these, wiki tag looking things. I'm like, so why wouldn't I just use a wiki? So, okay.
Yeah. Well, if you would be interested in using a wiki, then I would highly recommend Roam, because it's a very nice wiki at the least. But if you want to do more with it, like there's a lot more that you can do. Like for instance, they've got an entire community of people that are like basically hacking. Like you can write JavaScript in it to change how it works. For instance, that's one thing that's different from a wiki. You can also like theme it with CSS. It's got its own like query language built into it. You can do a lot of interesting like filtering because you can like tag and reference things anywhere. You can do a lot of interesting like queries on the data that you've put into it after you've built up, a large set of data. I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot more, but they're not very good at, this is intentional. They don't have like a really good, like you can't just go and go to their website and you're not going to find like a guide of how to do everything, because they have this like Roam cult like marketing thing they do, which is like, this is the part that is like, people kind of will start to roll the eyes, myself included.
On their like one of their pricing plans is called Believer, and it's a 5-year
Believer.
subscription.
I'm a Believer star.
Yeah. Oh, you are?
I will say, like, I really love it to the point where I actually was like, I paid for the plan because I was on their free forever version before they actually started charging. But I actually paid them for 5 years because I want them to be financially viable, because I don't want them to go away and like take all my notes with them. So
I've got a question for you. So I've been looking at the Roam website as we've been doing this. I've been looking at like one of their sample, I don't know what you call it, workbooks, whatever. And one thing that strikes me is that like, because it's kind of a graph database situation, because everything is so hierarchical, it seems like it would be really easy for me to like lose track of what's actually in there, because like a lot of things are going to be hidden, right? Because like you write your document and then you link to like 12 other like smaller documents. And like personally, like for me, like I know that after a month, I'm going to completely forget about like those documents, about the structure of this thing. And it just, I don't know. It seems like it would be hard for me personally to like find things once I've made them. And this may just be a personal preference, but I just thought I'd ask you if there's like something I'm missing.
You might be missing the way that it does like linked page references, because personally I like having like I've taken a fair amount of notes in the past using various things. Mostly, like I've used markdown files. Before Rome, I was using bear.app on the Mac and iOS, which is note-taking app. But I would say like I would go back and like find information that I had taken in my notes, or actually use it much less before I started like learning to use Rome. And I would say that's mostly because of the way it does the nodes and the like the inbound references. So a while back when I was I've been working on HoneyBadger.js, which is our JavaScript client library. I did a research project a while back on learning all about server-side rendering and what people are doing in like React and Vue land regarding server-side rendering, and how to like basically like what the applications are and what the implications are for universal JavaScript packages. Because basically like if you want to build a JavaScript library for people that are doing this, like it has to be able to run in both, like browser and server environments. So I did a big research project on this. So that's like all, that's all in there somewhere. But if I happen to like want to reference something in the future, like if I'm, working on it like now, like whatever, 4 months later, and I remember like there was some topic that was like semi-related, I can go to that page and basically it's going to link me back in a trail basically through my entire process of like researching that topic. And it's because I could just like search for something and then go and look through all my notes on it. But I could also say like, okay, well, I'm going to go look at my page on server-side rendering. And on that page, I'm going to see like what I actually wrote about server-side rendering itself. But then I'm going to see a list of linked references of like all the courses I took on server-side rendering, all the videos that I watched about various, like how to do it on various platforms, for instance, and then the notes that I took on those videos. Basically, like you can kind of like follow the trail back, just like starting from any point in time, or I mean, any point in the graph, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know, like I find it like, it's nice to be able to like basically start anywhere, like wherever you are right now, and you're like thinking about like what you're looking for, like you can go to that and then kind of start to trace back like through whatever your other notes on the topic were. And that can like, it's almost like a way to like research your own research or something like that.
That makes sense. Yeah. Like I don't think I've ever, like it makes sense because I don't really use notes like that. Like I don't really use notes as a way to document like what I am working on at the moment, or like learning at the moment.
I didn't either, but this changed that.
Oh, so, interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm curious, like I'm just gonna ask a random question, and this is just my own curiosity, but is it possible to, I don't know if you've ever used like, I think it's Scrivener maybe, or Ulysses, where you can essentially, like if you're composing like a story, what you can do is you can write these little snippets of story on these little like quote unquote cards. Mm-hmm. And then you essentially arrange them in whatever order you want. And then the program will take the content of those cards and render it as like one like document. So you can like look at it all in one piece.
Yeah.
Is that something that Rome can do? Do you know?
I believe so. Like rendering, I think Rome has a feature. I haven't used it, but I think I saw it somewhere in passing. It either has it or they're working on it, where you can like render like cards on a board type thing, but it's also like displaying it as a everything is basically like a list. Like that's the base format for the data. But yeah, it has a bunch of different ways to visualize the stuff that you put in. For instance, like it can do tables, it can do different types of graphs and stuff. And yeah, it has features where you can like split it out. I think it can split it out and show it on a board or something like that. So
okay,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I just like the idea of Like if you're working on a big article or something, being able to like work on a little part in isolation and keep it in isolation in your computer, but then essentially have all your little isolated pieces sort of concatenated to make the final document.
Totally. And with the list form, like, because you write kind of in like a nested format usually, and you kind of get used to writing like that, to where like, you're basically like outlining. And you don't have to do that. You could just write, paragraphs, and each paragraph is a list item. It's just a flat list. But with nesting, you can jump down into a level and just focus on that block too, which is nice. I use that a lot for, I've started, cause I actually I made a few attempts at doing like work journaling, where I'm like, keeping a running log of like problems I'm working on, or things, thoughts that I have that I want to go back to. So one of the other unique, I guess, things about Roam is that it's centered all around like a daily, it's called daily notes. Daily notes is just like a chronological. Each day gets its own document, basically. So it's kind of like the entire things, and you actually might like this, Star. Like the entire thing centers around like a daily journal, basically. So the daily notes is kind of where. Like it's kind of where you live during the day when you're using it. And so everything kind of like usually stems from there. Like you start by writing, taking notes during the day, like in this section. But then as you start to build references and things and jump around, like it starts to kind of, span out basically from there.
That makes it a lot more interesting to me, because I do, I've got my little bullet journal that I use every day to keep track of what I'm working on, and, make notes of things I need to do and all that. Yeah.
So my process is like lately I've been, I like where I'll like basically like log a timestamp and like what I'm working on. And then I'll immediately just like click into that bullet item, and it focuses just that item. And from there I can basically like outline as I work. I just keep it on the side of the screen. So it's really easy. Just tab over, and I can write, tab back, and keep working. But it's all very like it removes all the other clutter of the entire, the entire graph of knowledge that you have, basically. So yeah, it's nice, like the different views that it has that you can focus in on.
Cool. Thanks for answering all my random questions.
Yeah. I'm interested. If you try it out, let me know. I am curious to see what you think about it. Yeah, and you mentioned, Ben, lately at my project, like my side project, personal project, is building a static site from a public Roam database, which I'm using for, I'm thinking like it might eventually replace my blog, or it's definitely like a supplement to my blog. Like it's where things will start. But it's been really, I've never blogged this much before, to be honest. Like I never was good at, there's so many, like, it's so hard. Like there's so many steps you have to do, to do a finished blog post. Like it's just like, for most of them, I would just never finish them, or never start them, or even just like committing them to my static Git repo so I can deploy them. Like there's a lot of like stuff that has to happen. And in this basically I just like write in a Roam database, and then it's published, and there's like no pressure of like having to like have a finished piece, because things can change it. Like you can just, if you want to make a change, you just go edit the page and it regenerates your site. So I'm really finding this, I really like this idea so far of publishing like a public notes thing, kind of like as a blog. And the daily pages are actually, it works really nice, because like that's my blog index basically. So the index is just basically like a kind of like a journal.
Sounds cool.
That's really cool. It's like a journal that's like live or something.
Yeah, I'll link to it.
Stories, not let that one go. Oh,
what?
Alive. It's like some kind of live journal. It's almost like you're like a blogger.
Yeah, for this. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Josh. I'm not making fun of you at all.
No, you make awesome. Yeah. No, it's like there's a lot of hype. There is a lot of hype around this, and it's about to get even worse. Like they just announced their funding, and it's starting to go mainstream. And we're talking about this now on the podcast. Other podcasts.
Well, I can't
are talking
do it
about
then.
it.
I can't get into it. Sorry.
This is where like the true believers, go somewhere else. Star. So
this is where Josh holds up his Rome shirt. He had it before.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Now I'm just gonna write an ebook on how to most efficiently like use Notepad.
Yeah.
Like Notepad hacks for the clever 2020 Denison.
So there are a lot of alternatives to Rome now, and people have been talking like within the cult. People have been talking about like all the other things, like the other like extensions or alternatives to Rome that people are working on. And there's a VS Code extension that basically like it turns code basically into a Rome database that just works off of markdown files, which is interesting. And there's other things like that. Or if you like to use Emacs, then you could learn Emacs and use whatever. I forget what they call the extension for that, but.
Well, I noticed that Notion just released wiki links as well. So you'll see it's a total renaissance for the wiki, man. It's gone back.
Yeah, it is, and I like it. Like I think that these are pretty powerful features, and I'd like to see them in more tools. And yeah, I don't think it's going to it's definitely not a Notion replacement. I mean, you could if you really want to. Like I think people are doing like company Rome databases because you can. It's collaborative. So I haven't tried that yet, but you can invite your whole team to it, for instance, and all work on the same database. So yeah, I don't know if you all want to try that. I could, I have the plan, so I could probably just invite you to one.
I don't know. We might have to just stick with our old-fashioned Emacs and text files.
Yeah,
I would try it out. I mean, I don't know if I have the bandwidth now to like change my way of working.
I don't think we need to do any kind of big experiment with it. I'd say check it out on your own. I think like it does give me like new idea. Well, it's a good way to like a place you can like take ideas that you learn in other tools like this, and like you can implement them in Notion as well. So I still like Notion as like our company knowledge database, basically. Yeah, I'd say it's worth checking out. I mean, assuming you want to be cool.
I'm sure you have an affiliate link that we can use to sign up so that you get a kickback.
I don't think, they're too cool for affiliate links. Like you have to really have to like, you have to buy in, you have to buy into the cult. I'm not a huge fan of the whole cult thing, but yeah.
I don't know. Like what, like we need to like get some of this cult stuff for Honey Badger.
For real.
Honey Badger cult.
Yeah. Like
the problem is that there's no leader. Like you don't have like a three-headed cult.
Oh yeah.
So one of us would really have to step up as the visionary
Star to be our leader.
You don't want to have like the first like oligarchical cult.
Here. How about this? We'll start a public Rome. Well, not a public.
I mean, that's Tesla. I'm sorry.
We'll start a collaborative Rome database, and we'll work on our charter. Okay, Star.
Okay, got it.
The first charter of the.
Got it, and the handshake.
Yeah. And yeah, well, that'll be in there.
Yeah. All right. I think I sense us like closing up and getting ready for our big finale. And by that, I mean saying that this has been FounderQuest. If you want to review us, go to Apple Podcasts and do that. If you want to write for us or for Honey Badger, go to honeybadger.io/blog. Look for the Write For Us thing on the page. Get in touch with me. All right. See you guys later. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to founderquestpodcast.com. That's one word, where you can access our huge back catalog of episodes. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.